Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
But I'm excited to welcome the show author Katharine McGee. Katharine, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I am very well. It's a lovely sunny day here in Miami.
Well, I'm looking out. It's a very dreary, awful day in Pittsburgh. We had 70 degrees on Friday, and the snow's on the ground, and I just didn't think I would be saying this last week. Katharine, and maybe I have to get in your futuristic building right now and get to the floor that we're going to get to, and we're ready to roll, which is the 1000th Floor, and that's the book you have written, The 1000th Floor. So tell me how you came up with this. I know you're definitely you're a writer, teach creative writing, doing all these different things, but what is, in a certain way, how'd you come up with this idea?
So I actually used to work in publishing. So I was an editor. I lived in New York City, and I edited young adult novels for 5 years. And I wrote the novel in response largely to the dystopian craze that has been so prevalent in teen books recently, in particular The Hunger Games, but also Divergent and The Maze Runner, if you know any of these titles. You know, they're really, I enjoy reading them as a consumer, but they are very bleak, very dark portrayals of the future where humanity is reduced to kind of its most evil form. And so I really wanted to offer up a different version of the future. So the novel takes place in New York City 100 years from now. There is an enormous 1,000-story skyscraper, hence the title. But the world is very much a more optimistic and hopeful one. The tone is much more in line with the Jetsons than it is with the Hunger Games. So I've taken technology forward 100 years and then society forward as well. So I hope that it's kind of an alternative to sort of these very dismal portrayals of the future that we've been giving our young people.
Well, Katharine, when I guess you finally published the book, it was before the doom and gloom of what our society's looking at.
I was going to say, it's particularly timely now.
It's our society and what we're thinking. It's going to look like the Hunger Games after this administration in certain ways, with all the ups and downs of what we've been going through in the last couple of weeks. But definitely, I love hearing a positive portrayal of the future. And we're going to definitely chat about this a little bit more. But I know my co-host Peter Elvich has a question.
Yeah, so I have tons of questions, but I just wanted to start out kind of getting more of your background for when you started the book, because I know personally from my own experience of doing art that when creating something might not be the same time as you committing to it. When did you dedicate and commit yourself you were going to finish this book? Was it before you started writing? Was it during it? After you've thought of the idea? I mean, what's your story?
So I got the idea, I started thinking about it in 2014, and then I was still working in publishing at the time, so I'm very lucky. There's a lot of authors who spend a lot of time and a great deal of effort getting an agent and getting published, and my story of getting an agent was that I walked down the hall to my boss's office and told him that I would no longer work for him and that I was going to write, and I gave him the first 2 chapters of the book. And he basically said, keep writing, I think I can sell that. And so that's kind of how it happened, and then we went out for drinks that night. So I'm very lucky, but, I had been working in the industry for a few years, so I knew a lot of the people in it, and I knew certainly what was commercial and what was selling at the time, so I hoped that I felt very strongly that I wanted to write something set in a fun, futuristic world. And then as far as the characters went, I just tried to think of interesting stories to tell in that world. So I did sell it in early 2015, actually just based on the initial 7 chapters, and then I had to finish writing the book. So it's the first in a trilogy. It is also a New York Times bestseller, which has been really fun, and the TV rights have been optioned, so we'll see if something happens with TV. But right now I'm deep in book 2, and it's just been a really exciting journey. So I can't wait to see what happens next.
Awesome. And I know amongst the accomplishments, which are awesome for the book, for yourself, and then going into making a trilogy, I'm just curious because I've read a whole ton of books, and I'm just wondering, what, besides kind of like changing up the future premise, what else is something completely unique that's in your book that is in no one else?
Oh, so there's a really interesting mystery hook to book one. So I should say the book opens with a prologue where an unnamed girl character is falling off of the tower, so falling off of the 1000th floor of the skyscraper. And as the reader, you don't know who it is, and you don't know why she's falling off, if she was pushed, so if it was a murder, or if it was an accident, or if she was jumping. And then the book backtracks 3 months, and you meet 5 characters in a row, and it basically tells the story of how did someone end up on the roof and why did she die. So it's definitely, the tone, as I said, is much more kind of glittering, fun, teenagers misbehaving in a futuristic city, and all the stories interweave in surprising and fun ways. But there is sort of this overarching mystery. As the reader, you read each chapter wondering, is this the character who's going to die? Is this the character who's going to die? And I do, as I said, someone does die at the very end. I do kill off a character, and then I add 2 more in book 2. So I'm trying to sort of be like George R.R. Martin, who cycles characters through, who kills them and then brings in new characters. So I'm sort of facing a problem now because I have even more characters I want to bring in for book 3. So I might kill someone again in book 2, but my poor editors are begging me to please stop because, I can't kill everyone. but I also can't have 10 people narrating, so we'll see.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
Well, and I know you shared that, in the beginning, that a lot of these storylines are real popular right now. It's real with the movie series and book series that keep coming out. Have you gotten any feedback, based on that, since they're so popular? Is someone really giving you some direction to maybe take and write 3 more books after these, or what's the feedback
you mean
been?
From Hollywood or just in general?
Yeah, just from Hollywood, from people, reviewing the book and just giving you feedback, since it's so popular and prevalent, what's going on right now?
Yeah. Oh, well, with recent events, I think that has certainly affected the way that I've approached book 2, just even in the last couple of chapters. As far as Hollywood goes, they are an interesting audience because they like to push everything towards the visual and towards what will seem interesting on screen. So my agent's LA counterpart, when she first read the manuscript, her notes were much more about setting and less about characters. In particular, small things like I would have characters drinking wine, and she flagged that and said, can we have something futuristic and new instead of wine? And, at first I felt puzzled because, of course, wine's been around since, BC times. We haven't stopped drinking wine in thousands of years, so I didn't imagine that we would stop in the next 100. But I did go ahead and invent a new futuristic liquor called Atomic, which in my head is sort of like vodka. And all my characters walk around drinking Atomic and soda, and, Hollywood loves that. It's a very small detail, but then they can go create some kind of interesting, cool-looking, futuristic bottle. So those are the things that are important to them, whereas on the publishing side, I'm getting notes continually from HarperCollins to try to steer clear of having it be pushed too far in the futuristic direction. So they want the characters to still feel relatable, to still feel understandable, and, for the school to be recognizable as a school, for a date night to still look like a date. So it's kind of funny because I am being pulled in those 2 different directions of the TV people want it to be, weird, crazy future that they can make look beautiful on screen, and publishers still want, at the end of the day, readers to not feel so thrown by the sci-fi that they feel turned off by the story.
Now, that's so interesting when you bring that up, but what's more important for you right now, the book or possible TV?
Oh, definitely the book. If the TV show ever happens, which would be so exciting if it does, I won't be the one writing the screenplay, as I should not. It should be someone who is trained in writing screenplays. I've never written one before. So my job is absolutely to tell the best story that I can in the medium that I work in, which is the novel. So as long as I can make a good story that someone else could hopefully someday adapt into a different form, then I've done my job well. So I do want to stay true to that.
Where's the best place we can find information on you, purchase your book, and learn more about you? Where can we go?
You can purchase it in any bookstore, and it's also online. It is, again, called The 1000th Floor, and my name is Katharine McGee, spelled the British Jane Austen way, so Katha, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Katharine McGee.
All right, Katharine, thanks for calling, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Author's Corner, powered by Life Improvement Radio, live from the Mind Book Fair, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.